Hey guys, so if you missed class last week, either Thursday or Friday, what we did, or one of the things that we did that you need, is a presentation that kind of walked you through an activity to get the search terms together that you need for that Unit 2 Studio 2 that's due this Friday at 11:59 p.m. So I'm going to go through this presentation with you, just kind of walk you through it. The PowerPoint is available attached to the directions for the studio activity without my voice. But I'm going to kind of walk you through with a little more of the explanation that I gave for some of the slides and things in class. I am going to have to do it really, really fast because I only have 15 minutes max for this screencast. So what we were doing was, I go back if I can. Earlier in this semester, we did intro research methods, part 1, which was where we kind of came up with those focus words, focus questions that you needed to kind of break down your research. You included them in your presentation, and you've done a little bit of research based off those questions, and what they did was just kind of help break down to some smaller search goals. What we're going to do in this activity is I'm going to have you come up with a bunch of keywords, like maybe 20, that could help you better and manipulate your search, get some better results. So the goal is that you would have enough terms available that you could kind of switch things up. Because what a lot of people do is they focus on that big LOI and they get their main search words together and they just search those over and over again and get the same results. So the goal is that you would be able to manipulate that search and switch your terms up to focus on different types of information, and rather than having 50 pages of results that you have to sift through, being able to get all the good stuff on the first 2 pages and be able to search so that you're getting different stuff in each of your searches. So it makes it faster and a little bit more efficient and with some better results. So we're going to do some keyword brainstorming, and you can do this in your daybook, obviously. So a couple of tips that I kind of started with is, you can include, those obvious, keywords, but it might include some other terms that you may need to look up. You might also consider including synonyms in this list of words. Reason being is that, if you search. So my example down here, obviously I use the standardized testing that I always use as my go-to. If you're searching, something like teacher, the article you need might include, might instead use the word educator or professor or instructor. And if it uses those words instead of teacher, it's only going to search for the word teacher. So it's not going to search for those synonyms for you. So if you're not getting results, you may need to search multiple ways of saying the same thing in order to get results, because your search engine's only going to search for exactly what you tell it to, for the command you gave it. And don't begin searching, especially when you're trying to get a lot of information together, don't start searching with evaluative words. So don't. We'll come back to this in a little bit, and I'll have you kind of edit your list based on this. If you add like positive, negative, good, bad, what you're doing is you're telling your search engine to only search that descriptor, which can actually, there's a lot of ways to say positive. And you might hear articles talking about it a lot of different ways. So if you tell it to search for that word, it's going to search for just that word, and it's going to limit what you can find. You don't have to search positive results. You can just search results, and it's going to spit back all kinds of descriptors and ideas and opinions, good, bad, and ugly. So you don't want to limit yourself right off the bat. So I gave us, this is a sample list of terms that you might get together for something like standardized testing. So obviously I've got the phrase standardized testing, I've got teachers, professors, I think I've got educators over here. I have some specific people that are actually really big, like researchers in this area. So like Sal Khan, Ken Robinson, I've got them over here. If you search just for them, you'd get a plethora of stuff that they've done. I might need to know what No Child Left Behind is. I might search for specific kinds of information like studies or history. I might search for things like assessment. I might search for some different methods for education, like Montessori or open education. Different types of genres like article, documentary. So just some ideas so you can kind of see what a list might look like, a good full list. So what I'm going to have you do first is write your LOI. in your daybook. So you have to start with that to get some terms together. And because I want you to write it considering any changes that you may have made since you gave your presentation. I know some people's may have stayed the same and they got some different kinds of ideas, but some people did have to tweak, or narrow or find more of a focus. So if you made any changes, go ahead and write that down. And I'm going to speed through this presentation without giving any time to work. So if you need to hit the pause button, complete this step, give people maybe 1 to 2 minutes for most of these. All right. So step 2 is to take a minute, pull out any key search terms that you would use. So your go-to words, if you're going to go to Google, 3 or 4 words you would use. If you can come up with others, awesome. When you're done with that, I want you to think about those focus questions that you used, that you came up with, and try to come up with some words that you would use just to target those questions. So those like vocabulary, names, terms that you would find in some of those smaller questions, and kind of add those to your list. And you can make a list either just across the top or vertical in your daybook, because we're going to kind of build off of that list. Okay. So step 3 is to come up with as many synonyms as possible for some of those words. Try to come up with 6. At least, that would be kind of a minimum. So you're focusing on synonyms, either different ways of saying the same word, like teacher, educator, professor, instructor, or more specific terms. So like if you're talking about standardized testing and student success, success is going to be kind of hard to measure. Instead, you might think of words like outcome or results, or ways you would measure, like test or grade, test score, achievement awards, so things that you might be able to actually measure and find some results for. So try to come up with synonyms that are different and also maybe more specific if you need that. Okay, so for this one, I ask you to come up with more specific terms, names, and examples. So that would be things like, if I were searching standardized testing, I would need to search No Child Left Behind. I would need to search people like Ken Robinson and Sal Khan just to see what they have. So that would be, so No Child Left Behind might be a policy. I might also look up some specific standardized tests like the EOGs, ACTs, SATs, because the article I need might not be about all standardized tests. It might just be about the SATs. And so if I don't search specifically for that, it might be really hard to find that article. So you want to have some really specific things together. So I asked, try to come up with 4 for that. I went backward. There we go. At least 4 for the synonyms. Not synonyms. At least 4 for the specific terms and examples. Okay. So step 5 was to, as specific as you just got, like broaden it out and try to see if there's 4 maybe general terms you haven't included yet. Like if I were going to include, if I was searching standardized testing, I might want to make sure that I've got things like test and school and education in there. For like something like global warming, I might want to make sure that I've got like environment and weather and that kind of stuff in there. So those general kind of catch-all terms, and you're going to need those, and I'm going to explain why in a few minutes when we get there. So for this, what we're doing is kind of taking those words and thinking of some different ways to use them. And this is actually what you are going to use for your studio activity. I asked for your studio activity for you to have 7 search sentences. So for the brainstorming in class, we came up with 6 to 7 search sentences, which are just groups of like 2 to 4, groups of 2 to 4 words that you would use. So 6 to 7, 2 to 4 words. For the studio activity, you do have to have 7. So if you want to start and just go ahead and come up with your 7, you can. And the way you group them together should reflect variety, and they should target some different things. So come up with some groups of words that might target just your like big LOI, but also might target some of those specific focus questions. And you're going to come up with some different word groups. So a search sentence doesn't have punctuation. It's not a full sentence. You're coming up with groups of words you're going to Google. So if you look at the student example, she's got pharmaceutical regulation, she's got FDA, she's got some names like Bernie Sanders, and here Hillary Clinton. She's got companies like Johnson & Johnson. So you can tell all of these are very different. She's going to get really different results with this list. So take maybe 5 minutes and try to come up with a list of 7 groups of words that are different and are going to come up with some different information. So I'm going to give you 10 tips, and I'm going to ask you kind of look for some of these to look at your list and make some edits just to make sure you get good results. So one is, again, avoiding those evaluative terms. So what I want you to do is go to your list and remove any any evaluative words that you might have on your list right now. Next is this is kind of a tip. You can add source types and information and specific domains if you want to focus on something in your search. So if you wanted to find .org, or you wanted .gov to find some kind of government document or site for some specific kind of information or studies, you can look for that. You can also look for things like documentary, news, article, if there's something specific that you want to search, a certain genre that you need. So if you're looking for that visual source that you need for your annotated bib for the research guide, you could search documentary or search TED Talks and you come up with. So it's kind of just a tip. This one I want you to actually kind of, this is also just a tip. One thing to pay attention to is a lot of people have trouble with just getting a lot of .com sites when they're searching the internet. One of the things you can do is actually add, here it is. One of the things you can do is actually add this minus sign. So you can have a search like standardized testing, results, minus.com, and it's going to filter out some of those .com sites for you. You can do that with words that also come up in your search that you might want to take out. So I could take out -teen, and I could add the words I do want to search for, and I could say, don't give me back any results that have the word teen in it. I do want you to look at your list for this one. You need to add quotation marks around any phrases that you need to come back, like verbatim. So if I'm searching No Child Left Behind, I would want quotes around No Child Left Behind, because I need it to give me those words together. Otherwise, it's going to search no and child and left and behind, and you're going to get a lot of irrelevant results mixed in with the relevant ones. So you want to make sure if you've got more than 2 words together that you need to come back together, then you need to put quotation marks around them on your list now. Avoid common words. So go through and take out these kinds of words. A, the, which, that, of, articles, prepositions. It usually leaves them out, but sometimes it doesn't. And they're not necessary, and they can really mess up your results. So go through your list now and mark out any of these words. I call them stop words. And also any unnecessary punctuation that you might have. Unless it needs to be inside those quotation marks, you don't need the articles, you don't need the extra punctuation, just searching nouns. Search base words only. So I do want you to edit your list. So if you've got the word, walk, you don't need to add or search walks or walked or walking, because if you use this base word, it's going to add those endings on for you when you search. So it limits what you search. So if you go through your list and you have anything that has, that's plural or past tense or, progressive, go ahead and mark off those endings, because you only want to search the root, the base word. Okay. I had to come up with those general words. One tip is that if you're in Google and you search general, so you start with education and then you go to standardized testing, it's going to give you that drop down like autocomplete kind of list, kind of the drop down menu, and it gives you a lot of ideas possibly for searches that you might not have thought of yet. So if you start general and order your search general to specific, it can kind of help you kind of see some possible ideas you might not have thought of yet. You can include a tilde, so this little squiggle sign, in front of any words that it might come up with some synonyms for you. It's not perfect. You still need those synonyms, but it can help. You can add or in between words. So result or outcome, you can search standardized testing, result or outcome, and it'll search for standardized testing and result, standardized testing and outcome at the same time. And you can find some related sites. So if you want a video but not YouTube, you could find something similar. So you could search related, YouTube, and it'll give you a list of related sites, or related, and New York Times, and it'll give you some related sites.